Hola, hola, amiga. Last month, I had the pleasure of collaborating with two Latina-owned businesses, the Give and Receive and Blooming Bellies, for a pop-up event in the Chicago area. During this pop-up event, I had the honor to interview mujeres on site during this community pop-up who wanted to share their motherhood stories. And so for these 3 weeks, you'll be listening to interviews on the Viva la Mami podcast, and I cannot wait for you to listen. Our second guest is Sonnet Pacheco, who is the founder of Blooming Bellies. Blooming Bellies is a 3D ultrasound studio and boutique nestled in the Portage Park neighborhood of Chicago. They offer a warm and inviting space, and trust me, their decor is so cute. It's a combination of mid-century modern, but with Latino vibes all combined. And Blooming Bellies helps create cherished memories for expectant mothers and their families. They offer anywhere from 2D to 4D ultrasounds. They offer gender reveal packages. They even provide special keepsakes for parents to take away. And so it's just an amazing environment to be in, especially if you are an expectant parent who wants to bring their familia all together in this one place. And so Sonnet Pacheco is a lead ultrasound specialist who is passionate about capturing the beauty of pregnancy. She embarks on a journey to create a space where expectant parents could embrace the magic of their unborn child through the lens of 3D ultrasound technology. She brings nearly 2 decades of experience in the field of medical imaging and diagnostic sonography, capturing precious moments through 3D ultrasounds. Her educational background includes a bachelor's degree in biology and a diagnostic medical sonography certification. She is a devoted mom of 2 men and understands the joy of seeing your babies before they arrive. She helps families create lasting memories as they bond with their little one in utero. Throughout her extensive career, she has had the privilege of witnessing the miracles of life through the lens of ultrasound technology. And so it is my honor to have Sonnet Pacheco on the Viva la Mami podcast, which is actually the space in which she hosted this community pop-up event alongside with the Give and Receive, which was last week's episode 88. So if you haven't yet listened to that interview with Marissa Ikpo, I highly encourage you to take a listen. All right, well, now here's my episode with Sonnet Pacheco from Blooming Bellies. Welcome to the Viva la Mami podcast. I am your host, Jessica Cuevas. I am a mother of 2 on a mission to help redefine the meaning of motherhood as a modern Latina mom. Motherhood can be a complex journey, interwoven in 2 identities that often make us feel ni de aquí ni de allá. Viva la Mami is committed to providing you with knowledge, tools, and support to navigate the challenges and triumphs of motherhood as Latina moms. On the show, we'll be discussing culturally relevant topics that will help inform and empower you in whichever season you are in on your motherhood journey. We'll be joined by Latina moms, experts and professionals who can offer advice, practical tips, relatable stories, and honest conversations. So bring your cafecito as I invite you to be a part of this space as we create comunidad about the exciting and challenging parts of being a mommy. Ahora, vámonos. Welcome, Sonnet. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
you're
welcome. Yes. Well, I'm really excited to interview you just because we are in your space, your business,
Yes.
and I would love to know a little bit more about it. But before our listeners get to hear more about your story and everything about Blooming Bellies.
Yep.
Yes, Blooming Bellies. If you can introduce yourself. So if you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, your
Sure.
family, and where you grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Sonnet Pacheco. I am born and raised in Chicago, Humboldt Park area to be specific. I currently live in the Portage Park area, which is where my business is. I'm married to my husband of 18 plus years. We have 2 sons, an 18-year-old Uriah and a 16-year-old Gabriel. And they're both amazing.
That's awesome.
But I'm biased.
Well, I'm sure they are amazing because you're amazing.
Aw,
So,
thank you, sweetie.
Yes. And so it's funny because I can see myself in you like 16
I
years
love
from
that.
now
Yes.
because I have 2 little ones, 2 boys who are 2 years apart as well.
Amazing.
So
Boy moms. Boy moms.
Yes, boy moms. Hashtag boy moms.
Right.
And so, yeah, like I feel like I'm obviously in a different season of life than you
Yep.
are.
Mhm.
And so can you walk us through what motherhood looks like right now, especially as a business owner?
Sure.
And yeah, just walk us through your path, specifically in
Yeah.
your career and motherhood.
Yeah. So the business is new, about 4 months old. It's great because when we had our ribbon cutting in March, I specifically wanted my kids and my husband there because I always say this is our family business.
Yeah.
And so if you look around, I can point to different things that each of them have partaken in. My older one likes to do woodworking and crafts and stuff like that. So he's done the shelving. My little one's a little artist, so he's going to do a mural. So I'm trying to incorporate them. I want them to have ownership. But I'm also showing them the importance of persevering and going after your dreams, right? Like we're going after what we want to do in this season. I don't know how it'll turn out, but I want them to pursue their dreams and their desires. So that's where we are currently. I'm sorry, what was the next question?
Yeah. If you can walk us through your profession, like what kind of inspired you
Sure.
to create this business, but also a little bit more about your professional background.
Absolutely. Okay. So I've been doing ultrasound for about 19 plus years now. I was actually not pregnant when I was in school, and then I got pregnant while I was in school. So that's how I always gauge it. And Uriah's 18. So I've been doing it for that many years, and I've worked at Northwestern for the bulk of my career, working with pregnant women. So I do women's healthcare. That's my jam. So I've been working with like women who have been pregnant, but now I'm currently working in per diem status, and that just means I work kind of as they need me. Because the bulk of my time I'm trying to stay at the business here. But doing per diem work at the hospital for a fertility clinic. So women who want to get pregnant. So the whole gambit of all the stages of pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that for a while. And I have a friend actually, love women empowerment. She opened up her own boutique similar to this. And we were chatting one day. And she's like, you should totally do one. You'd be great at it. Her exact words. This was last August. Okay.
Wow.
It wasn't even a thought before then. So not even a year ago. This was not even a thought, right? And so she's like, you should do it. I was like, I should. Like, it like dawned on me, like, why wouldn't I? So I called my husband, who's super supportive, and he's like, let's do it. And it was literally like, he started looking at places. This location we're at was the first place we looked at. And it's a block from my house. Just so you know, I can walk here.
Oh, that's great.
And so I was like, why not? Let's do it. And so we saw it, loved it. It didn't look like it looks now because, but thankfully we had vision and we could see past that. And my sister does interior design. I think I mentioned to you. She was on HGTV, Battle on the Mountain. So
I'll add that in the show notes.
Yes. Hashtag. So she kind of was my visionary and she created a mood board and we created the vision for what it would look like. So that's kind of how we got to this place in terms of creating the business. And as I mentioned, we're 4 months old. And so I'm basically taking my professional career and kind of merging it with, a business and realizing it's very niche. It's a niche market. Not many people do this. There are other locations in the city, but I want to stand out and have a different vibe. And so my vibe is very like boutique and very like calming and inviting.
Yes, it is very inviting.
Yeah.
And I noticed, just little messages in Espanol, and I think that is very important, especially for Latinas in our community. Because we usually think of like an ultrasound kind of boutique, and I've definitely seen those in the suburbs.
Sure.
It's very specific to a very niche market, but Latina moms get pregnant.
That's right.
Get pregnant.
We do that really well, actually.
and I just feel like with you being a Latina and this is a business, you being a business owner specifically, like I love that you also have messages in Spanish out, around your shop because that makes it very inviting.
That's
and
awesome.
I love that.
I'm so glad you noticed that because I really wanted to be intentional about what people would see. I want you to be able to look at the space and be able to tell a story about myself.
Yeah.
Right. And certain things, I have my kids' ultrasound pictures up. I have things that I believe, either empowering terms or quotes, things about faith. Like these things are important to me. And so I want that to come through when people come into the space.
Yes. I love it.
I'm so
yes. And so, walk us through like when someone comes here, like what kinds of services do you provide? Is it not just an ultrasound, right? But like you told me a story not too long ago about, how you brought the entire family, one of your clients brought an entire family.
Yes.
And so tell us what makes that kind of like a unique experience.
Absolutely. So when creating my brand, I have a very good friend who created my brand for me. And again, this is new for me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, what does this even mean, a brand? She's like, well, what do you want people to feel when they walk in, right? I'm like, okay, so I can give you words and terms that I want to describe the business. As I mentioned, warm, inviting, but I also want it to feel not clinical.
Yes.
I don't want it to feel like you're in a doctor's office. I work in a doctor's office, and that's great for that, but I want this to be separate. And another thing with doctor's offices, you're limited as to who you can bring. One partner, maybe a kid, right? But that's usually the cap. They try to keep it very clinical. I want this to be different. So when people call and they say, how many people can I bring? I was like, however many people we can fit. And so I literally had someone who took me to that word, and they brought their grandma and their great grandma. And so it was multi-generational, and that was so much fun because, this is a communal thing.
Yeah.
And the way I see it is, we're helping the family start bonding with the baby before the baby's even born.
Yes.
And that's what they're doing. They're seeing the baby smile. They're seeing the baby move. And it really is an endearing moment. And so I love that. And so that's kind of been, so that's one of the services we say there's no limit. I mean, obviously we can't fit 100 people in here, but we can easily fit, 20 people, family members. And the other cool thing that I got the idea to do was to lock the door when a client is here, that it's only that family here at once, so that everyone feels safe. Like if there's kids there, you don't have to worry if there's somebody, random person in the waiting room,
That's so cool.
So that's one of the things we do as well.
That's awesome.
That's
like you're personalizing that experience.
Yes.
And I love it because, you get to share, like either exciting news or, you get to capture, those very important moments for many parents.
That's right.
And so, I love it. I love what you do. I love, your philosophy when it comes to creating a very welcoming space. Because like I remember taking an ultrasound and it was very like clinical, it was cold. It was like dark. And I didn't even get to like have an experience with the sonographer. And it is such an intimate experience, right?
Yeah.
But if you make it welcoming and you change it in a different setting, like it creates such memorable, kind of experiences.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned to you earlier, there was someone who came to the boutique today for the give and receive here. Yeah. That was a previous client of mine. So I got to see the baby in utero, and then the baby was born.
So cute.
And so they came and brought the little boy to me. So I got to see him. So
awesome.
it was a lot of fun, like kind of like full circle.
Yeah, it's full
creating
circle.
Relationships with the family, because they're like, oh my gosh, here he is. This is the baby. And so it's very relational. And I also mentioned to you, I like to give them the tour. Like, this is your baby's head. This is the arms. This is what, what's going on. Giving them the entire experience. Yeah. Because it really does start that bonding process.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Instead of just being quiet and not really knowing.
It's so awkward. I'm like, I don't want to sit in silence.
Some people don't even know how to read an ultrasound.
They sure
don't. My husband was like, oh, is that the head? And it was the butt,
So they're both round, but no.
and it makes it so confusing, not personal,
That's right.
and so it's nice that you get to provide that space for mamas and
I
for
enjoy
parents
it.
overall.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It brings me so much joy.
Yeah. And so now you work at a fertility clinic?
Yep.
Okay, so what does that look like when it comes to sonography? Like, I've never really
so
heard
the
about
thing
that.
with fertility clinics is these are women who are trying to get pregnant. And so what they do is the doctor will give them prescribe certain medications to kind of get their ovaries to produce the follicles. So follicles are the eggs that women have on their ovaries. And every month, sorry for the anatomy lesson. I hope this is okay.
This is helpful.
Okay, good. So every month, a woman will produce one follicle, and that's around mid-cycle is when she ovulates. We've heard this term. So day 14, typically in your cycle, you ovulate. If she gets pregnant, if there's intercourse and she gets pregnant, then she won't get a period, right? Because now the body has produced a thick lining in the uterus, and the pregnancy implants, and she's pregnant. Now, if she doesn't get pregnant, right, the egg will just do its thing. She'll get a period and the cycle continues, right? But some women have a hard time ovulating for different factors. There's polycystic ovaries is a big one. Sometimes it's a male factor that, they're not getting pregnant because maybe the male sperm isn't, swimming sufficiently or whatever it is. And so what they'll do is in the lab, they'll harvest her eggs. So my job as a sonographer is we'll do scans multiple times a week, and we're counting the follicles that she has on her ovaries. We're measuring them. When they get to a certain size, they're considered mature. And so after maturity, then many times what she'll do is she'll go into the operating room and they'll retrieve those eggs, and they take them into the lab, and then they'll have the husband leave a sperm sample, and then they'll join them together. And that's what you call IVF, in vitro fertilization. So that's one part. But then I'm also on the other part where when they're going to now take the embryo, they grow it in the lab, and they redeposit it into the mom. It's called an embryo transfer. That's actually my favorite part, because we're literally there while they're putting the baby in its home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then, sometimes it takes, sometimes it doesn't. I think it takes more often than it doesn't. And then 8 days later, they take a pregnancy test, and it tells them if it took or not.
Wow.
And then, here they are. And then they come in and we do their ultrasounds when the baby's heartbeat is there, like at 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
And we kind of follow them. And so that's what we do at the fertility clinic. We kind of follow them from the beginning, the entire stage to get them pregnant. And then,
And then you see it at like 20 weeks here with your business, right? And
yes,
so you see the whole process.
The whole process. So we're not there yet where those people are coming, but that's the hope, is that those people, it's like, hey, we have this facility here.
Yeah, I'd be like, here's my business
card.
Right,
here's my business card. Oops, I dropped that. Yes. But so it's navigating that and just getting the word out.
Yeah. But the fact that you get to like experience this, like this whole full cycle moment.
Full cycle,
like,
pun intended. Full cycle.
Yes. Yeah. And, I love that we have that, just like awesome accessibility with technology,
Absolutely.
right? That, we get to see the whole process. You get to see the process. You get to provide, those services. And when people say that there is a miracle, like I think that whatever impact or outcome that there is, whether if a baby will make it or not, for like a better term, like it's still a miracle, and you are a part of the process. Absolutely. So you are a miracle worker, I
like to say I'm a vessel, right? Like, but it's fascinating. The science is amazing. And ultimately, I believe, God is the one who does it all. We're just kind of his instruments, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the creation is it's remarkable.
Yeah.
Like when you think about like life, how it's sustained, and all the things, Yeah. I've been doing this for as long as I have, and it doesn't get old.
Yeah.
Just say that. I'm always in awe.
Yes.
Like, you see them drinking their fluid in utero. You see them moving their little hands, rubbing their face, sucking on their toes.
Yeah.
Like,
and
all
they already
the
have
things.
a personality.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Some of them are stubborn.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like my baby.
Yes. Stubborn.
We didn't see his face at all.
Yeah.
He was a mystery.
He's like, listen,
yes.
you have to wait.
And he was a breech baby. He ended up flipping, thank God, because
kept you on your toes, huh?
But his butt was down there, and he was like turned, so we only saw his back.
That's great.
Which is wild.
That's
so
great.
So there isn't really like a full image of him. I wish your business would have been opened because I would have utilized you. But it's just wild how babies have their own personality.
They have their own personality.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now you're a mom of young adults.
Yeah.
Like, walk us through that. And I don't know if you have any tips to share.
Yeah. Well,
especially for me because I'm a boy mom.
So a couple things. I think my kids are amazing. Like I mentioned, Uriah's 18. He is he just finished his freshman year at the University of Chicago. He wants to study finance, and he's great at that. And he's the one I mentioned. He loves to do woodworking, and he's just very handy, and that's just his thing. And then Gabriel is going to be a junior at Chicago Hope Academy. Also amazing. He's my musician and artist, and he's like very creative. And so I guess one of the things I would say, because my niece brought this up, she said, "Titi, you're such a good mom," is what she said. And she's like, "You find," and it's not that this is what I will say. It's hard to hear that, right? But I see the outcome, and clearly we've done something well. God has been great, but they're great kids, and I know that we got to take our ownership over that. But I will say for them both, I found the things that they were interested in, loved, and kind of supported them. So I'm not pushing music down Uriah's throat. That's not his jam. But guess what? For Christmas, we bought him table saws, and we bought him the lathes and the things he enjoys, and he'll spend hours in the garage with these amazing power tools. But I figured these are things he can take with him, right? And he's utilizing. And then for Gabriel, we invested with him and bought him amazing guitars and all the things. So just, I think I would say, know your kids, find what they're interested in, and meet them where they are. Don't try to fit them in your mold.
Yeah.
I know sometimes parents do that. I mean, the temptation is to be like, I want you to do this, so do this, but really finding that their groove and just kind of, so that's one thing I think we've done, and it's just fun to see them flourishing and using their giftings. Uriah, so at our church, he built like this this customized coffee cart from scratch, you know, and he built that, and he was able to, bless the community. It blessed him, and so it's just good, My little one, he plays the guitar, and he plays on a church band, and that's just something that he enjoys. So just finding what they do. So I think that's one of the things. Obviously, the other thing I will say is, somebody told me this when they were younger: never be the first to let go of the hug. So my boys are always, they are mama's boys, but not always during the day. Usually at night, they get really like emotional, even now. And so it's just fun when they like come in for hugs. I'm like, I ain't letting go first. You're going to let go first. Sometimes we're hugging for like 3 minutes. So it's really sweet, and you can tell sometimes they've had a long day or a hard day. And they just need mama's love. So so
and that's what they
present.
need, especially as men, in our society. And in our culture too, like we're told, boys shouldn't cry, boys shouldn't show affection and everything. And it's like, no, they need the love.
100%.
And if anything, to show them that, they're going to be great nurturers.
That's right.
If they choose to be parents or whatever, that's their decision. But at least they will be empathetic to the world around them and
100.
loving, to the world around them.
100%. So, I really truly agree and believe that wholeheartedly. They are both very empathetic, and they haven't always been. But I'll be honest. If they say something, when they go through their stages, I'm like, that was hurtful. You hurt me when you said that, and they're like, I'm sorry, mom. Or the other thing. Okay, I have to share this because this was really sweet. So my younger one, he 16. He's in his feels, all the things, right? It's hard to be a teenager. I mean, it was for me. I can only imagine now, right? So he isn't very touchy-feeling sometimes, and I'm very touchy-feely. I'm like, my baby, and he's like, Mom, can you not? And I was like, fine. And then I was like, okay, and so I totally respected him. I didn't think anything of it. For my Mother's Day card, because I encouraged them to write me cards with words, because that really means a lot to me. He put, thank you so much for respecting my boundaries, Mom.
Wow.
His words as a 15-year-old at that time. I was like, I was in tears. How much it meant to him that I actually listened to him, and he appreciated that. He felt respected. And you know what? He's a young man. I know I grew up, and in my house, it's like kids didn't get respect. It's your kid. You do exactly what you're told, blah, blah, blah.
Very authoritative.
And so it's exactly. And so I'm like, no, they have opinions. He knows what he wants. I'm going to respect you. And so he noticed.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Oh, I love it. And so now that you're sharing us your story and being a mom and everything, how are you redefining madrehood as a Latina mom?
That's a good question. I think even just kind of piggybacking off of what I just said, like growing up, kids didn't have an opinion. You do as you're told. No importa lo que tú dices, what I said, porque yo mando aquí, yo soy que pago los biles, like all of that. My mom would say all the things. And single mom, by the way. And she had to be tough. We grew up in a tough neighborhood, all the things. So there's a ton of grace given for her. She's phenomenal. But there's things that I've learned that I don't want to do, And so I think one of them is like listening to my kids and realizing they have opinions and they are individuals, and I'm going to respect them. If I want respect from them, I'm going to show them respect, and then knowing that they'll give me the respect, not because they're afraid of me, but because they actually respect me and love me. And they want to honor me, as opposed to like, oh, dang, if I don't do this, mommy's going to throw a chancleta at
having
me.
Fear.
Exactly. Don't want it to be fear-based. I want it to be out of a sense of honor and, and respect.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, Sonnet, where can people follow you?
Oh, you can find me everywhere on the social, just on the tickety talk, like my friend Marissa
TikTok.
says.
Oh my gosh, I don't do TikTok, man. Like, I'm an old school millennial. You gotta teach me.
You know what? I have younger friends who teach me, to be honest, because it's like the wave of the thing.
That's true. That's
so
true.
right now, my website is Blooming Bellies CHI.com. That's the same handle for Facebook and Instagram. My TikTok is a little different. I don't remember. I think it's blooming.bellies.
Sure.
But you can probably find it off of my Instagram. But Instagram is for sure Blooming Bellies CHI. And that's where you can find me. And I'm located in the Portage Park neighborhood.
Yes.
5851 West Irving Park.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. For anyone who lives in the Chicago area, you can find Blooming Bellies, find Sonnet. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And the work that you're doing is very important.
Thank you.
It's part of our story as moms, and it's the first kind of chapter of motherhood.
It's so good.
And you get to be a part of it, and that's wonderful.
It's an honor. It really is. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you.
Bye.
Mujer, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to the Viva la Mami podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a favor and follow the podcast and leave a rating and review? Hitting that follow button and reviewing my show will allow other mommies like you find this podcast. Your review will also tell me if you enjoy the show, so I would truly appreciate your thoughts. Don't forget, please share this podcast con tus amigas. Also, make sure to follow me at Viva la Mami on Instagram or visit vivalamami.com. Please note the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. Okay, mujer, thank you for joining y nos vemos in the next episode.